And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I call to order this October 16th, 2014 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners business meeting. So the first thing we do is a roll call, and Mr. Krupp, our county administrator, will do same.
Yes, so good evening, Commissioners. I do want to welcome you here on this beautiful October evening. Joining us, of course, is from the County Counsel's office is Mr. Chris Storey, and also our very skillful clerk of the board, Mary Rathke. So with that, I'm going to start the roll. Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Chair Ludlow.
Here. Commissioner Bernard is excused. Will you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, as we try to do every time we have a meeting, is put at the top of the list citizens communication. I have some citizens blue cards here, and I will call you up in twos and put two on deck. So the first two are Steve Bates and B. Minier. I hope that's it, B. Either one of you can go first.
You want me to go first? Okay. Chair Ludlow and Commissioners, I'm Steve Bates, a Clackamas County resident, and I'm from Boring. Clackamas County states that there is a $17 million shortfall per year for its road maintenance. Clackamas County says they cannot use ad valorem, or in other words, property tax money, to relieve the shortfall because of a state law. This is disconcerting, and we all must do something about it. 2 weeks ago, I was before you requesting that this commission schedule a policy and study session to consider endorsing our proposed legislation that would change the law that prohibits county commissions from spending ad valorem taxes on road and bridge maintenance. It was asked of me if we had other endorsees of this proposed legislation. I'm told the Clackamas County Granges will be voting on an endorsement in January. Our legislative advisors say that a Clackamas County Commission endorsement is important for the success of this proposed legislation. It was also stated that this commission does not entertain or endorse proposed legislation before it is actually a bill. This is not true, as the commission entertained proposed legislation as it developed its 2015 legislative agenda. Another question posed was, where did this law originate? Why is it on the books? In the 1920s and the 1930s, the State Highway Commission was funded by a 1 mil statewide ad valorem tax levy. The Highway Commission distributed portions of this ad valorem tax to the counties for secondary highways and roads. It is asserted that the state wanted this revenue stream for this purpose and this purpose only, and the law reflects this. As the counties received a portion of ad valorem tax, it only makes sense that the counties couldn't levy a tax for road or bridge work. Furthermore, it is asserted that as the road funding model evolved, the state abandoned the collection of ad valorem taxes in lieu of other funding measures that failed, and they failed to change the law accordingly. With this said, this antiquated law must be changed. The solution for this county's road fund deficit must be multifaceted. Changing this law is one of those facets. I am told that our county has a $3.1 million surplus, as reported in the past few weeks. I trust that this commission will use some of these dollars to relieve the road fund deficit. Hypothetically speaking, if that surplus was $17 million, this commission could not relieve the road fund deficit as the current law stands. Commissioners, I urge you to have a policy and study session to endorse the proposed legislation to allow county governments to use ad valorem tax dollars for county road and bridge maintenance. I urge you to seek local discretion. I ask you to seek local control.
Can't believe you hit that right on the nose, Steve. That's exactly right. Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, so am I to understand then that you were working with the legislators down in Salem to draft such legislation with
I
legislative
have a
counsel?
draft. I'm looking for a sponsor to drop the bill for me.
Okay, so that's in process, and you haven't got a legislative sponsor yet. Do you have any idea who in the delegation that might be, or?
At this point in time, I'm not going to name any names because elections are just around the corner.
Oh, so you don't know who? Okay, so there will be certainty as to whether or not the and then you're planning to lobby down in Salem to push it through.
Correct.
To the various committees. Okay, that was my question, because I haven't seen a draft or,
The draft,
draft
the draft
is-
was given to you 2 weeks ago. It was.
was it a legislative council draft?
No.
Okay,
It has
that's
not been
what
submitted to legislative council as yet.
Yeah, when I talk about a draft, I actually talk about the ledge council draft, because what happens is that they take the concept. So what you're asking is maybe for your concept to be endorsed, because the draft itself is going to be it'll be a numbered legislative
It's
council draft.
proposed
that will be-
legislation, yes. It's
Yeah, that'll
proposed
move on
legislation.
to being a bill, and then it'll be analyzed by legislative council to see how it fits in the rest of the, rules and administration of that. So I was just curious as to where it was in the process.
Commissioner Savas.
Well, Steve, I do appreciate actually you bringing this to, this topic up. And, I don't have any heartburn or any issue with having the work session. I think it'd probably be healthy to learn more about it and understand why, why. And I think you sound like you've done a little bit more research since last time you and I spoke about this. So I wouldn't be adverse to that at all, not having the work session. I do realize that, there's a lot of people that believe that there ought to be a relationship between the tax or the fee to what it's being charged for. And I think, whether it's a user tax, basically, the model of a user tax versus something as property. People could say that there's a fairness issue, and I would certainly like to find out from, some of the tax experts at the state, what their feelings are about that. Is there a relationship between property and usage of a road? Whereas obviously a gas tax, for the most part, people are driving on the roads for that. That makes sense. There's a relationship. So I guess there might be a question of fairness, but I would certainly, I love to have information, and if good information comes out of that, I think it'd be worthy of taking a look at.
Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, my understanding is, am I correct, and I don't want to misspeak, so I'm going to ask my colleagues to correct me now. Washington County can use a portion of their ad valorem taxes towards roads, if
Yeah,
I'm not
they were
mistaken.
grandfathered,
And they were
in.
grandfathered in?
What's that abbreviation, Paul, for that?
That was their MSTIP funding.
Yeah.
And so because they had a tax levy on the books, and then Measure 50 came in, locked that in.
Okay, got it.
And
There,
so
there is, if I may, there is a paragraph of exemption in the law. Basically, what we're asking to do is add another paragraph that would be another exemption, which would allow all commissions throughout the state to use ad valorem taxes for road and bridge maintenance, not road and bridge construction, but just maintenance.
I have said before that, and during the budget process, I did lobby and fight for some commitment, because we realized that, by meeting the letter of the law, we could spend $4.5 million of general fund money, property tax money, basically, to offset some of the cost, to free up money that could go directly towards roads. So, I advocated for that. My colleagues approved $500,000, so I got a portion of that towards that, and my goal was to ramp that up each year. I'd like to see it happen faster, because if there is truly a return on investment, as we've talked about, it'd be nice to monetize that and say, okay, if we actually did have, $3 million that we didn't anticipate, or even a portion of $1 million towards that, any effort whatsoever, I think it'd be nice to know what that return on investment would be at a monetary standpoint, versus sitting in the bank or sitting with a bond or a note or whatever, however that the treasurer might decide to invest that. So I think it's worthy of taking a look at.
Mr. Bates, this is the second time you've requested that, and I give up, of course. We will definitely discuss this. The question is, when do we do that? And I appreciate you're right. We've set our legislative priorities and have already worked on some of those already. We have already procured some legislators to carry the water for us, so to speak, in making those proposals. I mentioned again, when I think about, let's just pick a number here, let's say $5 million, that we would say, and by the way, that $3.3 million, or 3.1, whatever it was, I think Mr. Krupp has couched that is a portion of an increased reserve. Tootie's mentioned before that, if we had a road happening like we did Lolo Pass Road, we'd be digging into some serious reserves and contingencies. But it is certainly worthy that if this legislation comes forward, and even if it doesn't, that we could certainly talk about it. I mentioned to you again that if that $5 million was there and we pulled it out of our ad valorem taxes and used that for road purposes, there is, like Commissioner Savas said, the question of does a user pay? But in addition to that, does the $5 million come from public safety, veteran affairs, human services? We have to do that prioritizing every spring as to what money we have and where it should go. And I'm concerned for some very important services for vulnerable citizens that could suffer depending upon whether this passes or not. But I will promise you that I will put it on for a discussion item at some time in the future. I also disagree with the following. It has been told to you that our endorsement is important to its success. I guarantee you, we endorsed a lot of things last legislative session. It didn't mean a darn to anybody. So, I don't know about to say that we're so august that we would have such an influence, but I would tell you that we will take a good look at it. But at this particular time, it is very premature.
If I may,
Always.
if we have the commission's endorsement, I have somebody who will sponsor the bill. I have been basically.
Prerequisite, huh?
Yes.
Well, I will take it up with my colleagues for sure, and definitely talks with some staff about this as well. Is that
Thank
fair
you.
enough?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. You're up.
Okay, well, I'm B. Manier from Boring, and I totally support what Steve's efforts are here. I have this, it was a handout that was given out at the Boring CPO meeting several months ago. It was all about roads. And on there, it had on this page here, it says revenue options, and it said the county is considering various options for road maintenance funding, and the goal was $15 million. And the options were a vehicle registration fee, $5 per vehicle per year, road district, 5 cents for $1,000 of assessed value, gas tax, 5 cents a gallon, and a transportation utility fee, $5 per household per month. If today, with Steve Bates' proposal, I should say, and this proposal, if the citizens of Clackamas County right now had to make a choice, I would just like to know what each of you would think they would choose to support Steve's proposal or being taxed with one of these options. And I would just like a comment, please. Thank you.
Well, that was succinct. Well, You know, it may be a combination of those things that you'd mentioned as well. You know, our goal is 17 million, we're dropping $17 million a year. And to recite again what the facts are, over 50% of our roads are in fair and poor condition. We have 1,400 miles we're responsible for, and we're going to have to address the money situation. If I was a betting man right now, I would probably say that citizens would say, yeah, grab it from property taxes. However, as I say, I think the ramifications of that have to be spelled out to them too. If you do this, we lose that. And those are important choices that would definitely happen during budget time. We're anticipating, and actually next week our assessor will be here to talk about taxes and how they're going, how much we're getting, et cetera. But he doesn't know until the end of this year, really, how much more we're getting actually in October. Of course, he'll know a great deal more. But I would guess that people would defer to existing taxes rather than new taxes. But again, I say, I would like to know what they'd say if we told them we're cutting it for public safety, for example. And I think they'd probably turn around on that. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I think it was said a couple weeks ago, and I think the chair alluded to it. I'll just be a little bit more clear about it. I don't want people to think that if this law passed, that there's a great big bucket of money that's sitting there idle with nowhere to be spent on. There is no freed up money. So, you know, we ended up at the end of our budget year dedicating $500,000 of general fund money, and there was, at the end of the day, at the end of the budget was approved, there was not any other monies remaining. So if this law passed tomorrow, there's not an endless funding stream. So the other fees that you outline would be new revenue to try and that's really the challenge. The challenge is that, you know, unless something is given up, there's no free revenue out there to do that. So it's not just the law or the current ordinance or the Oregon statute. The ORS statute is not the obstacle.
Commissioner Smith?
I would agree. I think if it were to come to vote today, they would go with Mr. Bates's proposal because it's the perception of the people that we have enough money and we just need to spend it more wisely. That's a perception. Well, you know, we can go that route. We cannot do anything for many years. And if we put out a proposal to the voters and it fails, then we will go with that. Gee, what are my decisions? I can take some officers off the highway. I can do less mental health. I can cut back on our clinics. I can cut back on a lot of stuff that people seem to demand. Maybe that's the route we'll go. We'll have to see on that. If it's up to the voters, which I think it will be, I think it has to be up to the voters. I wouldn't consider anything else. We'll just see what they want to do.
Well, thank you both for coming. Next two up, Les Poole and Eugene Whitley.
Good evening, Les Poole, Gladstone. On your agenda, I hope your legislative agenda, that of course you're going to discuss with them about getting some of the authority back to the county that Metro took from you long ago. I know that's on your list. It's ironic, I talked with one of my associates in Salem yesterday, and he mentioned that the Legislative Counsel, which is the attorneys that review the bills, they're really concerned about the use of the term Metro, because in Seattle, Metro is the bus system. There's Metro New York. When we talk about Metro, it's actually Oregon Metro. And Oregon Metro implies that Metro someday probably would like to control all of Oregon, but we won't go there right now. Metro's the elephant in the room. And interestingly, we heard about an idea that Steve Bates has, and I understand the conundrum you're in because right now we've got folks being asked to spend more for parks, not just this or that or social services, but you can bet there's some money spent out there that maybe we quote-unquote don't have to. And when you're asking for more money one way, shape, or form, and you've got a parks levy coming, sometime next year, no doubt we'll have a road fee. Where does a person choose? There's just so many people I can think of that are on a fixed income, and I won't belabor that issue any further. I really don't need to. You're in a tough spot. And public perception is what got some change in the commission here a couple years ago. And I think that public perception at the time about priorities and where money was going is why we saw some changes. I went up to Highway 224 last week, took some photos. It is an unfortunate situation. The road is closed at Promontory Park. Just beyond the nice park there, the highway's completely shut down. And the ODOT folks I spoke with said, you know, depending on the weather, because all the roots are burned away and that's such a steep canyon, that road's going to be in real trouble and it could be shut down a long time. Just to keep things clear, that's a state highway, that's not a county road, so we're not stuck trying to somehow fix that one. But your point about Lolo Road, your point about having a contingency is well made. The last thing I wanted to say is back to Metro. Currently, there is a survey I would encourage citizens to take. Climate smart communities. You know, the use of the word smart is beginning to get to some of us, and it's a marketing thing. And I hope that the citizens will go online to Oregon Metro, take the survey with the understanding that those questions, like most surveys, are leading you somewhere. Thanks for your time, and please, all of you, vote. And my God, folks, let's get us a new governor, please.
Let's throw that one in, huh? Whoa, a round of applause. Just so you know, I have scheduled as a discussion item at our business meeting on the 30th of October, Climate Smart. I think it is important that we put this out to the public and let them know the possible ramifications of this smart move. And so, Commissioner Smith.
We have been having many briefings on it. We have two good representatives who are trying to represent Clackamas County's point of view to Oregon Metro on climate smart. It's really being shoved down our throats at the cost of hundreds of $millions where there's no proof that it actually even works. I think the program is ludicrous, totally ludicrous. There's no science to back up that if we spend $100 million on this project, that'll make us better, it'll make us healthier. Not when you have China with all of their pollution because the winds flow from west to east polluting us. Clackamas County and really the Tri-County area, when you look at it, it's a very, very small blip on the screen compared to everything else going on. I just don't see how we get there. And I certainly don't see the taxpayers wanting to fill the bill for this. So you guys will have your wonderful opportunity to make lots of comments, and I hope you do, because once you see what this entails, I think you would be appalled.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to clarify what the chair really meant to say, and that was, and I support and agree, but actually instead of typically having our discussions and work session items on a Tuesday, I think that the proposal is to have that on a Thursday evening like this, or a Thursday daytime, but at a business meeting on a Thursday, have the discussion about the climate smart issue. You know, the concern that I've been sharing with my colleagues is that the science and it's undisputed that the best savings, the surefire savings to reduce climate smart is reducing traffic congestion. Everything else, all these other proposals, solutions count on behavior change. You know, some people call that social engineering, but I call it behavior change. We know that as people want to have different modes, that some people will use it and some people will not, and maybe it's convenient, maybe it's not convenient, but at the end of the day, that the surefire bet of reducing congestion and doing it in a sophisticated way is important, and it's effective. But that's being discounted, unfortunately. In this program, it's saying, what they're really suggesting is that, well, if you actually fix the congestion or you actually solve the congestion, you'll just induce more traffic. You'll induce others. And frankly, there's a twofer and a threefer and a fourfer out of this, meaning that there's co-benefits, economic benefits towards a sophisticated approach towards reducing congestion, and that is freeing up commerce on the highways. I mean, truck drivers that are paid the cost of moving freight, it's not cheap. Those trucks, the fuel, there's a lot of benefit towards a well-managed highway system. And I think that we need to advocate that really has to be strongly considered in this program and somehow not discounted or even disallowed or not allowed to have any funding towards. I think there's people concerned that at the end of the day, the way this is written, that it may indeed could lead to that, and I think that's a concern we all have. And we do have in order to accomplish our goals at the county, we need to, which are increase employment, increase access to industrial lands. We need roads and we need highways, and we need transit. We understand that transit's our needs, and this Clackamas County has more transit agencies than any other county in the region. And they think as though we don't care about it. We have rural transit agencies. We have, we're definitely have TriMet in our district, but we have SMART in Wilsonville. We have, we have transit in Canby. We have transit in Sandy. So, we understand all those needs, but we have a very rural county with a lot of topography, and it doesn't lend well to walking or biking in some of the rural areas, especially in the weather that we get in the winter.
Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the transit piece in the smaller cities, because I worked on that bill actually in Salem when I was there doing policy and that kind of work. And it enabled the smaller cities to move away from Metro, the TriMet, is the main provider, come up with their own systems within their area, and then they do integrate with TriMet as they get closer to, the city area. But we realized at the time when you looked at how it was working that Canby was getting no access, for instance, when I lived there, and now it's got its own transit system that really moves people nimbly, and it really makes a bigger difference for our seniors, and actually more opportunity to be flexible in routes as well. So that was the impetus, is that the needs in those smaller communities, and frankly, it's working beautifully. It works well in Wilsonville, am I right, Chair? Works well.
Gotcha.
Sandy, and then I remember cutting the ribbon for the Canby transit system, CAT. So, yeah, I think that there are really multiple ways to solve this, and I'm looking forward to a lively discussion. But if anybody wants to be the alternate at MPAC for me, they could do it.
Martha, you're handling it so well. For a state that, they have said that they're going to create a commuter rail from Eugene to Vancouver, and our share, the state share, is $600 million, and it is not financially sustainable. That means it'll have to be, additional monies go into that. For a state that says that the CRC, Columbia River Crossing, is back yet again, for Metro, who, the Climate Smart, the grand estimate is $265 million a year if they fully invested into Climate Smart. 1 year of that money would take care of I-205. 1 year of that kind of money expenditure would take care of one of the biggest problems in the metro area in the state of Oregon into interstate travel. So I'd say they have misplaced priorities, and if only the governor who said, read my lips, no new freeways, would say, read my lips, no new boondoggles, no new taxes. That would be a special day for us. Thank you, Mr. Poole. Look what you've done. You got us talking again. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Eugene Whitley, and I am a candidate for the Clackamas County Board. I hope it's okay if I speak.
Us aboard here?
Okay. I spoke earlier about 5-6 weeks ago, and I questioned the 40 cents. Since that time, I've met with Mrs. Zentner and gone over the budget. And then just recently, you were going to say something?
No, I'm just
okay.
curious. You're running for the board, you say?
Yes.
Parks Board?
Clackamas.
Oh, North Clackamas Parks and
say that.
Recreation
I'm
District. I
sorry.
thought you were running against us. I didn't know. It was
You're
good.
taking away from my time. Anyway.
Oh, we'll give you a little bonus, yeah.
Anyway, and And so she was kind enough to go over a number of the issues with the budget. And then most recently, I met with Mr. Barth, and he showed me the whole history. I am convinced more than ever, and I hope the voters are, that 40 cents is needed. Because I see the additional 40 cents.
That was 35.
Let me just say it's 35
Okay,
cents.
35 cents.
That sounds so much better, don't
Okay,
you think?
35 cents. Because of two issues. Number one, I see that if they're able to put money aside for reserves for current assets, they have far too little. That if they don't get this, I can see the assets continuing to decline. But just as important, I can see that the programs and the growth and the additional needs in all the underserved areas. And Mr. Barth was kind enough, and he's not my best friend, but he's kind, and I respect him for the information he provided, that even in Happy Valley, there's an underserved area, as well as in Zone 1 and Zone 2. But I see a real need. I think the challenge, because this issue is much more complicated than just 35 cents, a new board, and separating from the district. There's so many things that need to be done. The challenge is because eventually SDC fees are going to dry up. And then the challenge is how are you going to balance the funding in all the zones? I think with proper management of the funding, of asking the questions, and I guess that's what I've done. And I feel really positive about this ballot measure. I feel that truly there is a need, and because I saw that when Measure 5, was it Measure 5?
Yeah.
The rate was 68 cents. Now it's down to 54 cents. I think one of the things that if I was to do it again in your position, I would have made sure that there's representation from each of the zones. And I want to make sure that if I become a member of the board, that there's balance both in funding and projects throughout the district. Thank you.
Well, you're still in it on time. You got a few more seconds if you wanted.
Well, no.
Huh? Oh, you,
Stopped it, so.
oh, you did.
Stop. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you
Anyway.
very much. Thank you, both of you.
No, I've learned a
Oh, wait,
lot.
Commissioner Savas.
Thank you.
I did have a question for Mr. Whitley, and that is, and you sent me an email, and so I want to just give you an opportunity to kind of, after I give you the clarification, maybe you can help me understand if you understood my email, which basically, just for the benefit of everyone listening, I think the question was based on the question I had asked at the forum here about a week and a half ago or so. And the question really is that the ballot measure that for the Park 3-451, which lists some recommended projects, if the group recognized that a lot of people would be voting for that, maybe based on the projects, maybe not, but let's just say for the assumption is that because it's listed in there, would you indeed recognize that, and do you indeed support the project? So I'll just going to give you that opportunity to answer that. I heard everything you did support, but I didn't necessarily hear that you support the projects.
I do not intend to turn the ship, meaning there's been a lot of effort and work put in by the current board. Do I support the projects? Absolutely. At the same time, I feel that being part of the board, it's my responsibility to the citizens to evaluate them and be brought up to date how these decisions were made. Yes, I support the projects.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because as of the one commissioner who lives in the district, I just want to make sure that if it passes, if it indeed passes, that we see value for that money spent in the district. And we are in the district where we're identified as severely underserved by the current master plan, and that's been a concern for me for a long time.
Okay,
So I appreciate you stepping up.
thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. And Sonia Pauley and Mac Woods. Either one of you?
I would be very fearful of allowing the county to have access to property tax dollars for road maintenance, because they say that they're short $17 million, and I can just see them figuring out how they're going to raise our property taxes $17 million, because I don't think there's any slack there right now. So that, I don't see that as a solution. I know we own our own home free and clear, which we're very lucky, but we worked hard all our lives, but we pay the county $600 a month for the privilege of living in a house that we own already. So I don't see property taxes solving our problems. But what there is a solution that I haven't heard hardly anyone talk about. Well, let's see, it's been several months ago, 5 or 6 months ago maybe, there were 8 governors. Our esteemed governor was not one of them, of course, but 8 governors who met in Utah to figure out how we are going to take back our public lands from the government, the federal government, so that we could make those lands work for our economy. And, you know, they own more than we do. And I understand that at one time, the money for the road repair did come from the forest harvests. So why aren't we cooperating with those other 8 governors who went there and came up with ways to start getting our land back from the federal government? We would have plenty of money for a lot of things if we could do that. And that wouldn't be raising our property taxes, because I don't want to pay $17 million more in property taxes myself. I understand how the roads are in bad shape, and we really definitely need to do something about them. But why isn't our governor out there working like governors from other states?
I'm going to have Mr. Poole come up and answer that for you. Actually, real quickly now, that your $600 a month would be $7,200 a year that you pay to the county. Understand?
No, it's not quite, it's maybe 500.
But whatever you pay, and
500.
whatever anybody pays out there, you pay it to the assessor. He divides it up into the
you know
smallest
he's a
increments,
dirty
and we
guy,
are
isn't
one
he?
of those. So it's not to this county that receives all that money. Our assessor receives it and bifurcates it all over the place, Tootie.
What I'm saying, there's no slack money there.
I agree.
So I don't think that making the money available for road maintenance that's not a solution. But getting our land back from the federal government is a solution. Get our state government organized to participate with the other states who are working on that.
I have been floating this idea at the Association of Oregon Counties since March, and through the Natural Resources Committee, and then we formed a subcommittee to deal exactly with this problem. We had a resolution come forward about a week ago, and we decided to send it back to the subcommittee for more wordsmithing. I think the proposal needs to be simple and forward. We're trying to come up with a resolution that says to the federal government, since they own 53% of our state, is to turn over the management and or the deed to the state of Oregon and to the counties for management. And it's the federal timber, as you know, that we receive money, proceeds of which, after it's divvied out, to pay for our roads, pay for our schools. Our schools are hurting. The cost of higher education is out of reach for most people now, unless you go into a massive amount of debt. And so there's a lot of Oregonians that could profit from the trees that are just dying in the woods.
Burning in the summer.
Yes, and so I've been working on that very hard. And quite frankly, with my fellow county commissioners, even in some of the counties where they're going broke and had to shut down their public services, it's a push to get this through.
Are you in touch with the 8 governors who are working on this?
I am
And
not in
if
touch
so,
with the
why-
8 governors.
Why not?
Well, maybe
Because
I should be.
you
I'm
should
starting
be.
at the county level, trying to get every county in Oregon to go on this, that we send it to the legislature, and then our governor can make a very public decision on this.
Elect Dennis Richardson and we'll get it done.
Mac, welcome back.
Chair Ludlow and Clackamas County Commissioners, Mac is back. I'm shocked that our favorite commissioner is not here, but we'll just have to
That's
deal
because he knew it was
with
going to be a Mac attack. So,
it. It almost makes my hair turn gray.
I'm sure.
But good to see you all. I haven't been here in some time for a very special reason. Thankfully, we can hear each and every one talk all the details about what's going on right here in Clackamas County, right over our home TV, and sit there and get fat like me and enjoy it. But a few months ago, I made the comment to the commissioners, did you know that you don't know what you don't know? I have learned more about what I don't know than you realize. And I and many of the public voters, thank God I just got my voter thing today, and I'm going to fill it out, that us property owners will know who to vote for, choose the right candidate, and vote. Know more about them. The public, the voters, property owners, taxpayers are learning more about the commission than we ever knew before. So I'm thankful for that, and I don't even have to burn any gasoline. Recently, actually September the 23rd, 2014, I went to the Ethics Commission to get a copy of what I had requested over a year ago. Mr. Les Poole is aware of it also. I was shocked to discover that I can't get what Les Poole and I saw at the Ethics Commission before. The Ethics Commission people there are appointed by our governor, Kitzhaber. And each and every one of them, it's all controlled by our governor, Kitzhaber. So, friends, property owners, taxpayers, let's learn what we don't know and know who to vote for. Thank God we can do that by sitting at the comfort of our own home and learning what people are doing. Truth is coming out. Now, the amazing thing, also one of the things I did get was some of the things here. It talks about, I'm not going to go into details, this attorney indicated Mr. Blank met with TriMed on 3/14/12 and learned of the impact of this ethics commission. You all know quite well I filed an ethics complaint on one Clackamas County Commissioners. Out of respect, I won't call no names, but it was dismissed. Well, I'm going to have to come back again.
Go ahead.
Well, I filed this thing, and let me tell you something. The truth is going to be smoked out. I'll go one step farther. I, a retired sailor, 3 trips to Vietnam, politicians calls it tours, and it's everything except a tour, was not invited to a Oregon City meeting that somebody that's running for a re-election come up with to try to get votes. That's nothing but an ambiguous way of fooling the public. And I showed up in uniform. It still fits after 35 years ago when I retired. And when I saw one of the gentlemen that was there, and I said, hey, I want to talk to you, Mr. Blank, he took off like a scared rabbit. They put up that 4x8 plywood board down there on the highway, calling it a memorial. If that's a memorial, I'm Donald Duck. You can buy the plywood at Home Depot for less than $5, and any decent painter can paint it. What a disgrace. And Mr. Charles Woods, Tyrone Woods' father, was not invited, nor was I invited. Tell me about it. We need to learn who to vote for. And look at all them empty TriMed buses and trains that's running around. I just got a notice from the tax department I got to pay more money, including what I've already paid on TriMed. We, gentlemen, people out here in the public, need to know who to vote for and vote. Thank God we still have the right to do that. And let's get rid of the things that's unfavorable as we keep working just to pay our taxes. Thank you, Sheriff, for the extra time.
Thank you both, yeah. Thanks for, and I wanted to mention the fat phrase, because I saw you about 4 months ago in your uniform, so you're not laying around too much.
Well, thank God I come back. I survived, even though I don't see out of the left eye, shrapnel. Tyrone was a 1992 Oregon City High School grad, and to let them crazy, politicians try to feed off of him and make a thing like they're doing something for the veterans just to get votes really gets in my craw. Thank you, Chair Ludlow.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, he's a negative, so he graduated in 92.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Krupp, you're going to give us talk about a presentation tonight.
Yes, and don't mind the screen coming down behind you. We have a presentation this evening to spotlight our Clackamas County Cable Office and our Clackamas County Government Channel. Mr. Tim Heider and Debbie McCoy from our Public and Governmental Affairs Office are here to give you a presentation on what is an outstanding service that Clackamas County provides. So shall we get started?
We shall.
Good evening, Commissioners. Chair Ludlow, Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Schrader, and Commissioner Savas. I'm excited to be here to tell you about our channel, Clackamas County Government Channel. We're very proud of our channel, and I have a quick PowerPoint that go here. Okay.
The side arrows.
Okay, thank you. We began programming in 1996. At that time, we were programming 5 hours per day and only 5 days per week and only 4 hours per day. We increased operating to 24 hours per day, 7 days per week in 1998. We've produced over 6,000 hours of programming this last fiscal year. To date, we have had 243 awards. This year, we have garnered 13 awards. The cable channel reaches approximately 65,000 cable subscribers in Clackamas County. Another 200,000 homes in the metro region receive programming through our other access facilities that we provide the programming to. Our programming includes documentaries, live board meetings, public service announcements, community announcements, children's programming, events in the county, history, weekly dog adoption and dog of the week series, absconders and most wanted, town halls, and so very much more. We can be seen on 9 different cable companies. They're different channels, from Comcast on Channel 30, and in the city of Milwaukee, we are on Channel 29. Clear Creek, we're seen on Channel 20. Beaver Creek, on Channel 98. Canby Telecom, we are seen on Channel 21. Reliance Connects, which is in Estacada, is on Channel 75. Wave Broadband in Canby and Molalla are on Channel 15, and in the Sandy area, we are on their Channel 9. In Coltontel, we are on Channel 63, and in Frontier, which is on the very edges of the county, in both Happy Valley and Wilsonville, we're on Channel 40. Now I'd like to also thank the crew that we have. Tim Heider is our executive producer and kind of the brains behind the operation. We have also a new video communication specialist working with us. He's come in with a lot of new ideas. His name is Garrett Teague, and he's just been on board a few days, but he's doing a great job. We also have Rich Marvin, who does all our equipment acquisition. He builds the computers, he fixes our edit suites, and saves a lot of money for the county. And then we have Reba Crocker, who is our administrative assistant. We also have approximately 18 contracted employees, from videographers to host talent and graphics artists that help with our channel and the programming that we do. Now we have a little video we're going to show you from years back to present.
Since 1996, the Clackamas County Government Channel has been on the air, providing informative and entertaining programs to the public. Now operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the channel showcases the wonderful activities, community life, history, and scenery of Clackamas County that make it a great place to live, work, and...
Pretty proud of some of the awards that we've gotten.
We need more filler, I think.
Okay. We won an award for our Clackamas Water Education program. that was done in the county, and we did this for Wes. We did one on window safety to remind people to fix their windows so children don't fall out. It's a PSA, but we thought it was pretty important, and we won an award for that. We also won an award for the Law Enforcement Marine Academy.
We're ready.
Okay.
Sorry about that, guys.
Oh, that looks good.
Yeah.
Lost my sound.
Well, this is working out really well, don't you think?
No, DirecTV does not support the access centers.
You were bragging about our video, and we can't show it.
I know.
So it's not a good night that
I
way.
don't know what happened to my sound. I'm sorry.
Well, perhaps we could run it just the way it is.
Well, a little bit of more information, if you wanted some. We did a survey, a needs assessment, and we did a community survey, a mail survey. And our channel is seen on a monthly basis approximately by 21% of up to 21% of the cable subscribers. That's about 2 to 3% per week or daily. And that you can kind of compare with the Comcast owned channels, which the viewership is about 1 to 2% per week and on a daily basis. So we're pretty happy with the viewership.
Well, I'm going to try again.
Okay, we're going to give it another shot here. So.
Ready.
Yeah, I don't have any sound.
Let me just point out that when I set the agenda, if it's going to be a light agenda, I like to feature some of the things that Clackamas County does. And because here on the fourth floor is the cable and television departments, we get to walk by literally a wall of plaques, and Debbie has explained how they got many of those, and they've received some more this year. But I've been so impressed with, if you watch the cable channel, the broad range of subject matter and the explanations that I think a lot of people don't understand about this county, its function, and the people in it. So that's one of the reasons I asked them to come forward and do this presentation. I'm sorry it didn't work out well. Perhaps we can play it later. But I want to let you know from the commission, we're very proud of this group and the outstanding work they do in disseminating information to the public, and their awards are well earned. And so I think that I have to, what?
We think we have it
one last
Well,
chance.
it's opening up, so keep talking.
Oh, I've never had anybody tell me that before, I'll tell you that. But anyway, we will continue to, as agendas dictate, time allows, at our business meetings, again, featuring some of the wonderful things our departments do. I've talked with Mr. Heider today about a couple other ideas to focus on our departments, one of which I discussed with him today, which he evidently already had planned, was our outstanding road department. We just talked about, $17 million, et cetera. I think people have a picture of government workers leaning on shovels around a hole and talking about things, but that is not the case here, for sure. These men and women work very hard in our road department every day to make sure it's going to be safe traveling for you out there. So evidently there's going to be a small video done about that, and we really appreciate that. And can I stop now?
I have
Okay,
it now.
good. Yeah.
But I want everyone to know that it wasn't our cable channel. It was something I did. Because we have a great cable channel, and behind that glass are great workers. And anyway.
Yeah, it should be pointed out, occasionally if you see a mirrored glass back there, there's people behind there staring at you. So, but it's okay, right? There you go, yeah. Mary got it together. Yes, Mary.
Ready?
Yeah.
Since 1996, the Clackamas County Government Channel has been on the air, providing informative and entertaining programs to the public. Now operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the channel showcases the wonderful activities, community life, history, and scenery of Clackamas County that make it a great place to live, work, and play. The channel also makes sure Clackamas County government is more accessible and understandable. We provide vital information to the public about county services, programs, and public meetings. From park openings, land use meetings, and other events, to documentaries, PSAs, and shows like Inside Clackamas County. The government channel produces over 6,000 hours of programming a year and has been recognized for over 200 national awards. And the Cable Communications Division will continue to build upon the success of our staff and producers, covering what's important and the things people need to know in Clackamas County.
Have fun, and I'll see you on television.
That was a few years ago. Mary
Sounds awfully familiar.
Well done, Mary. Of all people to finish up with, is the person that finally put this together and finished it off. Thank you very much for your presentation today. You are well appreciated, and we look forward to great work in the future.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. All right, into the business of the night. I'm going to announce a recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District for this next item. Mr. Krupp.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have a public hearing to consider first reading of an ordinance that would amend the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District system development charges, the framework for those. And I'm going to invite Mr. Gary Barth, who's our Director of Business and Community Services, and Mr. Chris Storey to give a brief staff report on the proposal.
Chris, would you like me to begin?
Absolutely.
Good evening, Commissioners. Gary Barth, Director of Business and Community Services, and also here is the Director of the North Clackamas Park and Recreation District. We're here tonight on the first reading, public hearing of a minor ordinance change to our System Development Charge ordinance for NCPRD. Currently, our system development charges are collected across 3 zones of the district. Currently, Zone 1 is the city of Milwaukee. Zone 2 is the unincorporated west side, and Zone 3 is all of the east side territory of the district. Each zone collects 2 fees. One fee is a zone-specific fee, and one component of the fee is for district-wide projects. Zone-specific fees go towards neighborhood park development in each zone. Those are typically referred to as zone projects. The district-wide component of each fee collected in each of these territories and areas is used for district-wide projects throughout the district. The majority of district-wide projects are in Service Area 3, as is the majority of the projected growth of the district, as is the majority of the system development charges currently being collected. In conversations with the City of Happy Valley, we've had some conversations about assuring that SDC, system development charges collected in Service Area 3, be appropriated towards projects, neighborhood projects and district-wide projects in Service Area 3. Right now, that is currently happening most by practice, but the ordinance specifies that district-wide component can be used on any asset in the district. So in discussions, the board gave direction to staff to proceed with a minor modification of the SDC ordinance that would assure that system development charges collected in a zone are applied to capital projects, that adopted capital projects that exist today within that zone. Secondarily, the zone area 3 is the City of Happy Valley and the Urban Growth Management Area, or UGMA, of Happy Valley. Currently, Service Area 1 is just the City of Milwaukee. The board also directed staff, for consistency purposes, to move the Urban Growth Management Area of the City of Milwaukee out of Service Area 2 and combine it with Service Area 1, which would give consistent treatment for the SDC zones in those 2 city areas and their UGMAs. So before you tonight is a marked up version of the ordinance that makes the changes that would address those two issues as directed by the board. What's collected in a zone stays in a zone for capital investment, and the urban growth management area of Milwaukee moves into Service Area 1.
Mr. Storey?
I'm here and available to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Schrader?
Yeah, just a quick question, Gary. So Service Area 1 and Service Area 2, they don't generate the amount of SDCs that Service Area 3 does. So there's other methods to get dollars for park development there other than SDCs. Isn't that
Yeah,
correct? I thought you might talk about that.
Over the life of the district, we've done $47 million in capital improvements, and about $11 million of that has come from system development charges. So about a quarter of our capital improvements come from system development charges. Other sources are the Park District General Fund. The county has contributed general fund to projects. Metro, green space money has gone towards our projects, and staff's been very creative about sourcing a number of grant opportunities through the Oregon Parks Department and others for projects.
You know, we talked earlier about the 35 cents, and you know, I think we must understand that the new board, if it is elected, can do as they wish. And specifically with the 35 cents over what they're paying currently can be used, a portion of that can be used for example, we use as an example a $25 million revenue bond, which would allow for the immediate reaction of that additional monies to create some of the spaces, and especially in areas that are especially underserved. So that is a potential that the new board can do. When the new board is elected, they get to do what they want, really. And any suggestions that we have made will, you know, be their decision. Remembering that this process this identification process and master plan took over 2 years, and a lot of public input into that. And I'm sure, and I hope that the new board, if and when they're elected, will pay close attention to the work that Mr. Barth and our staff put into that master planning. So with that, any further clarifications? Oh, Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, just to clarify, you put a lot of emphasis on Service Area 3. Just want to verify that the SDCs collected in Zone 1 will stay in Zone 1, and SDCs collected in Zone 2 will stay in Zone 2 as they will in Service Area 3.
Correct. They'll be invested in projects that are identified in those zones.
Okay. And the net result of that?
With one exception.
One caveat?
Two caveats, and they're both noted in the draft ordinance language. The first is that there are currently outstanding debt of NCPRD that is supported by SDCs. It's paying for Hoodview Park. Part of the draft ordinance is basically to keep that arrangement the same, such that both Zone 1 and Zone 2's district-wide portion of their SDC collections would be assessed a pro rata share of that debt service annually until the SDC eligible portion of the debt service is paid. More of the debt is cannot be paid all with SDCs, so that won't be forever, but there is a percentage of it, which was basically the original arrangement under which that money was borrowed, in which all of the district SDCs collected were contributing towards that debt service. I believe currently Service Area 3 is contributing around 90% of the SDCs, so it is a relatively small number from Service Area 1 and 2, but we felt it would be important to note it. Also, it reserves the right for NCPRD to levy charges against all 3 zones for global planning, charges for master planning, for other consulting work, or efforts that are generally applicable all the way across the district that would normally be supported by SDCs.
And to follow on that, so I think as we look back in history, the monies that are servicing this debt have always, SDC monies collected in Service Area 3 have been
Contributing to the debt payment.
I mean, every penny has been contributed towards a project in Service Area 3. Is that correct?
In the Happy Valley portion of Service Area 3 have all been dedicated to projects in Happy Valley.
Okay, but also you're saying, I think that, so the clarification suggests that areas collected outside the city of Happy Valley, but still within Service Area 3, have been spent outside of Service Area 3.
Yeah, prior to 2004, there were not zones, so any SDC collected in the district was just a generic Park SDC, and it could be applied on any project in the district. So that's why I say the urban unincorporated UGMA of the east side could have very well contributed to projects on the west side, where there were no zones.
Have we defined UGMA? Because it's Urban Growth Management Agreement.
Area.
Well, okay, we'll go with an agreement and an area here. But the bottom line is Milwaukee is slated to annex in the future everything all the way up to 205. Happy Valley has indicated that they would like to eventually annex that, which meets 205 also on the east side. So just so we have a clarification on that. And so any further clarifications, Commission, before we open the public hearing? Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing, and I do have several cards here. They are from Counselor Michael Morrow and Eugene Whitley again.
Commissioners, Chair, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for letting me talk. With me tonight is Council President Markley Drake, and I'm Michael Morrow, City Councilor for Happy Valley. I just want to point out a few things. We do, as a city, of course, support this. We have, as a city, have put in about 75% of the SDCs that have been collected since we joined the district. So we're a major contributor. This is not just another Happy Valley ask, but what it is a ask from your partner to let us see what we can do together and what we can build in Happy Valley. As you know, Hoodview Park was built in Happy Valley, and we enjoy that park. Thank you very much. But it is a district-wide facility. Since we've joined the district, actually, aside from Hoodview Park, which is a pay-to-play facility, that means that Happy Valley residents have no greater access to that park than anybody else in the district, or for that matter, anybody in the region, because they do have regional events there. Aside from that, NCPRD has put in $230,000 into one of our parks. We have a list of things that we were promised when we joined the district, and as your partner in this, we would like to see you contribute to those. And we believe that by keeping the SDCs in our area, that's going to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir, again.
I'm Eugene Whitley, candidate for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board. I'm not sure this ordinance change is a good idea at this time. I'm not against it, but I think more information needs to come out. The voters pamphlet went out last week. The ballots are coming out this week. The ballot measure involves 3 issues, as we know. Many voters do not wait until November to mark their ballot. Now the ordinance is being thrown into the mix. Most voters want to be assured that they get their share of monies and parks in their zone. As I mentioned earlier, Happy Valley, Mr. Commissioner Morrow, feels that they're underserved just as the other 2 zones. If I'm a Happy Valley voter, the change sounds very positive to me. If I was in Zone 1 and 2, I would have some concerns. What is the financial long-term impact in Zone 1 and 2? How do I get projects in my area when I do not have sizable service development charges? Will my taxes in Zone 1 and 2 be increased from 89 cents and above to help fund projects? Currently, some of the Happy Valley City Council believe that they are underserved. Those living in Zone 2 felt they are underserved. Granted, we cannot make everyone happy all the time. Can some facts be made available to show the impact of this ordinance change? For example, take the last 2 years and create a what-if model with the SDC fees in each zone. And finally, let the people know how many residents, taxpayers move from zone 2 to 1. What other issues are of concern to the Happy Valley Council and residents? If the ordinance is approved or not, would their other issues make a big difference in funding and capital projects in all zones? There's a challenge ahead for all of us, and a challenge to you, commissioners. And I think it's also very important to the voters to have a little clear answer on what these SDCs are. As I said in the beginning, I'm not against them. I just think there's some further answers that need to be given.
There will be no SDCs unless something happens, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And just to assure you, there will not and cannot be an increase to any particular zone unless every voter gets to vote on it in the entire district. Such is the case here. We are, the whole district is voting for this change in dollars, but nobody will pay a differential rate. Let me also point out to you, I looked up UGMA. I just want to be right most of the time. It's an urban growth management agreement, because without the agreement, there is no area. And we also, as pointed out in my Google, we have those agreements with Tualatin, that we have them all over the place. So an UGMA is an agreement, thereby by creating the area. Thank you for that. And Commissioner Savas.
Well, I think somewhere in that agreement it calls about the urban growth management area, but there's lots of acronyms out there that are duplicative. My question is, or not, my statement is, just for clarification, I think I mentioned this at the Parks meeting last week, is that I think Michael, and fair, I mean, it was a fair statement that I think Milwaukee felt they were getting the short end of the stick. And I think my comment was, I think everyone feels they got a short stick, or several short sticks. And, as a resident who voted for and has been paying into the district since inception in 1990, I paid a couple, $3,000 probably in taxes total, in the time, is that, we've been waiting for something to happen. And I think that a lot of citizens in that area feel that haven't gotten, in the 24 years, haven't gotten what they felt they should have got. And again, I think everyone feels they're getting, and hopefully if this passes, there'll be an opportunity, and hopefully the new board will, somewhat honor the need and recognize that those areas that are in dire need of services will have an opportunity to actually get a park in the area and get some of those resources. But I know that Happy Valley's been in the district since 2004, I believe. Is that about right? Yeah, 2006. So you've been a member of the district for 5 years, and the citizens of Happy Valley have been paying in for 9 years. I've been paying in for 9 years, and people in the Elk Grove, Jennings Lodge area have been paying in for the whole 24. So it's, I don't know what the exact number is of paying in, but approximately $100 a year currently, or some number like that is what the current tax rate is. But I just wanted to let people know that hopefully the new board, as I mentioned with Gene earlier, that they'll recognize those projects are important to kind of get some equity, because there is the SDC revenue, granted, but there's the tax revenue that's been there for a lot of people for that long period of time, the 24 years.
Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I just want to point out tonight the process that we are simply reading the ordinance by title only tonight. So a vote tonight is not a vote for the ordinance. That's happening on the 30th. This is just the procedure you have to go through with 2 readings. So it's not over till it's over, okay? So just a procedural issue. And so remember, even I imagine if we vote to move it until October 30th, I imagine there's going to still be discussion among this commission about what the final outcome's going to be. So,
could I say one more thing?
Surely.
I would hope that Mr. Barth and I could meet, and I'd like to know the financial impact, because he did share some numbers with me this evening that I had not seen before, and that'd be wonderful if he could do that.
We have certainly invested a lot of time and a lot of policy sessions on this, and I appreciate that you can't know everything that we've gone through. Mr. Morrow?
I would like to also add, we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about taxes, and then we're talking about SDCs. SDCs, System Development Charges, are there to build capacity. And what my point is that Happy Valley is a growth area, 200% in the last 12 years. We've put in 75% of the SDCs, actually 55% overall, if you'd count in all the 24 years since Happy Valley's been in, we've still contributed 55%. But if you just add the time Happy Valley's been in, we put in 75%. So system development charges are for capacity building. The reason that they're going out for this 35% increase in taxes is so...
35 cents.
What did I say?
Percent, you said.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay, I made the same mistake.
I was hoping I didn't say million. 35-cent increase is so that you'll be able to raise revenue, you'll be able to bond, and you'll be able to provide parks for the rest of the district.
Commissioner Savas?
I just want to just clarify, SDC's methodology, SDCs are extremely complex, and it's really hard to understand. But I just think for the record, we ought to make it perfectly clear that the SDCs that are collected are derived from a new property owner when they have a home built or a new business, when they actually pay an SDC fee. So they're not fees that were derived from the general fund of the city of Happy Valley. They were derived from the person who, a new development and a new property. So they're really, they're owned by the district, and they're written to the district, and Happy Valley, when it's in Happy Valley, they're collected at the counter at Happy Valley to be conveyed to, not unlike the sewer SDCs, not unlike water SDCs. So I just want to make it perfectly clear that the SDC monies are not coming from the city of Happy Valley, and they're being paid, from the city of Happy Valley. They're actually derived from the development that occurred.
And Mr. Morrow, we appreciate, or I should say, Councilor Morrow, you're appearing tonight representing Happy Valley. And it is a wildly successful and growth town, and we wondered if we could sell you a library. But anyway, we'll take that up later, right?
Fair enough.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your time. I'm going to close the public hearing and ask the commissioners for a motion to read the ordinance by title only.
I move we read the ordinance by title only.
Second.
So the motion made by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Schrader. And so I'll ask the clerk to call the poll.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Chair Ludlow?
Aye, passes 4-0. I'll ask the clerk to assign a number and read the ordinance by title only.
Okay, this is going to be ordinance number 06-2014. Amendment to the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District's Park and Recreation System Development Charge on new developments.
All right, further discussion. Do commissioners have any proposed changes or amendments to the draft ordinance at this time? All right, being none, I'll announce the second reading will be, as aforementioned, on October 30th, 2014, at our regularly scheduled business meeting at 10 a.m. All right, I'm going to announce that we will adjourn as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners for the remainder of the meeting. It is now time for the consent agenda. I'll ask the clerk to read the consent agenda by title.
Okay, the consent agenda. Under Health, Housing, and Human Services, approval to apply for a grant renewal from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Supportive Housing Program for the Hope One program for the purpose of providing housing and services for the homeless. Approval to apply for a new grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Supportive Housing Program for the Housing Our Heroes project for the purpose of providing housing and services for homeless veterans. Approval to apply for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Continuing of Care Grant funding for homeless programs and services in Clackamas County. Approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the State of Oregon Department of Human Services for the operation of the Food Stamp Employment and Training Program. approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Multnomah County Department of Community Justice, Safety First. Under the Department of Transportation and Development, a resolution declaring the public necessity and purpose of acquisition of easements for the East Barlow Trail Road Embankment Reconstruction Project and authorizing negotiations for eminent domain actions. Approval of an agreement between Clackamas County Department of Transportation and Development and the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District regarding transfer of maintenance obligations for the Oak Grove Boulevard boat ramp. Approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Metro to implement the fiscal year 14-15, year 25 annual waste reduction and recycle at work program. Under elected officials, approval of previous business meeting minutes. And under the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, approval of an interagency agreement between Clackamas County Department of Transportation and Development and North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District for transfer of maintenance obligations for the Oak Grove Boulevard boat ramp. And that concludes the consent agenda.
All right, I'll ask for a motion on the consent agenda.
I move we support the consent agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Second that.
All right, motion by Commissioner Schrader, second by Commissioner Savas. Any further discussion? I'll ask the clerk to call the poll.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Chair Ludlow?
Aye, passes 4-0. It's that exciting time yet again for the county administrator update.
How exciting
I gotta
it
give
is.
you a good intro.
I do have several announcements to share with you. One, I wanted to make sure folks were aware that earlier this week, the Board of County Commissioners did take action to approve an increase in the reward that the county and others are offering for information leading towards the arrest of the suspect in the Grady Waxenfelder tragedy. We had been setting the amount at $16,000. It has been increased to $25,000, and the reward is really a partnership with the county, the O'Malley Brothers firm in the Estacada area, the U.S. Marshal's Office, and Crime Stoppers, and we would like to reinforce the importance of this to publicize the case, to bring justice to the family and to our community. I wanted to make sure people are aware of that decision of this board. So, the second item in the way of an announcement, I also wanted to share that this board has recently approved a new practice that really originated as a request from an employee in our Veterans Service Office. Starting this Veterans Day, November the 11th, Clackamas County will be flying the Prisoner of War Missing in Action flag above all county facilities on Armed Forces Day, Flag Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, National POW MIA Recognition Day, and Veterans Day. And we're proud to be able to honor our veterans in this meaningful way. So, I also wanted to thank the county commissioners and county employees who were able to participate and to attend the 21st Annual Northwest Public Employees Diversity Conference in Portland. There were 1,000 attendees at this conference this year, 110 of which were representatives from Clackamas County, and so we're very proud of our participation in this important regional event. And then finally, I wanted to let you know that I'm pleased to share with you that County Clerk Sherry Hall has agreed to help us in assisting the Museum of the Oregon Territory with the archiving and preservation of their collection of some very old county records that they've had in their possession for some time. The museum has about 174 canvas books that they've kept stored in the artifact storage area of the museum. We were approached by the museum some time ago. They were looking for help, given that they were running out of room and were concerned about how they could care for these important documents. Ms. Hall, who learned about the ask following a discussion among the board about this, offered to take a look at their collection and agreed to make a permanent home for these historical records within the county's archive facility under the supervision of the county clerk. And so a special thanks to Sherry for stepping up to assist and to play a role in protecting and preserving our heritage resources here in Clackamas County for the use of future generations.
That's it. All right. Well, it's time for Commissioner communication, and I'll start with Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I want to thank my colleagues. I had to leave the meeting a little early the other day, and evidently they did vote to support one of the consent agenda items tonight, and that is actually applying for HUD money in order to, and actually providing a match for money for helping our homeless veterans. That is actually part of our strategic investment plan, and as I said to the chair, it makes it easier to vote for things because we know and we solidified the fact that it was definitely going to be a priority for one of the things we can do, so it helps us make those decisions. I continue to work with our Veterans Committee on a covenant program, and then we also just attended the Association of Oregon Counties Veterans meeting where we're looking at legislation, continuing a legislative push that we do at the state level. And also at that meeting, I attended our economic development meeting. I'm the co-chair of that group. And again, we look at legislation in Salem to move forward economic development initiatives for counties like ours that have a very, very well-known and robust economic development team under the direction of Mr. Gary Barth, I might add. I did attend the diversity conference, but my colleagues, you folks were there in the morning, I was there in the afternoon, and I took Diversity 101, and it was really fascinating to look at the history of our country through new lens. It was very intriguing to me as you go through, you know, the watershed changes that happened that allowed our citizens who are our friends and colleagues and our citizens of color, how we have really, I think, moved the bar so everybody can be a participatory citizen in a democracy. That was a very intriguing slideshow to watch, and I was actually really glad that I had the opportunity to do that. In the morning, I actually attended an economic development summit from Greater Portland, Inc., and the reason I attended it is because they export goods and services in the international arena from Oregon, you know, to Japan and Asia and India and so on and so forth. And one of the other things we do in this county, we do have an export initiative where we work with our local farmers, growers, and other traded sector businesses about how they can get their goods and services not only delivered in this country, but how they can expand their markets overseas. So that's been something that we've been working on for a while. The other projects I've been working on is obviously we've mentioned Climate Smart, which is going to be a real interesting discussion at the MPAC table. I'm the designated sacrificial commissioner for MPAC. Thank you very much. You know, I'll bring our message to MPAC because, as people said earlier, the issue is this county has different needs. We're not just an urban-centric area. We certainly have urban areas, but we also have our rural communities that need maintenance and roads to move their goods and services so they can also participate and be prosperous as their communities. So our landscape here is quite different, and the message we have to continually bring, I think, to our colleagues over in what I call Portlandia is this is the Clack, we're different, our needs are different, and the kinds of planning and future needs that we need to have happen probably going to be, well, obviously going to be somewhat different than some of the agendas they're pushing. I don't see it as right or wrong. I just see it as for saying, well, great, we have all these other ways of looking at transit and all this other stuff, but we really need to be looking at road maintenance and I think capacity building in this county because we are rural as well as urban. I continue to work on the urban growth boundary conversations that are happening now at Metro, looking at housing studies in terms of what people want to live in, and guess what? Information from the home builder shows actually the American dream is still alive. Most people still seem to want to live in single-family homes with a backyard for their kids. So that's a whole nother element as we look at land use planning, is that we can talk about density, but not everybody necessarily wants to live in a condo or an apartment. So we have to recognize that as we look at our land needs. I met with Joanne Truesdale this afternoon. She is the head of the community college here, the president. She serves with me on the Workforce Investment Council of Clackamas County. And we met, we were also at the meeting this morning where we looked at the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act at the federal, that the feds just passed. And we are trying to figure that out to see what it needs for our education and workforce here in Clackamas County. So sorry I took so long, but that's the news from the Clack. Okay.
You did fine. Commissioner Smith.
I have an update on the 36 pit fire. The rain is helping to extinguish what is left of the fire, and we are expecting full containment in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much. Highway 224 continues to be open to local traffic only from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and must be escorted. There is still no known date for when this may change or when it will be fixed. I am going to call upon the federal government and the Center for Disease Control to restrict air travel from Africa in Ebola-affected areas. Thank you. I think we must do everything possible to make sure Americans are safe and stop the outbreak here and abroad. The challenge is too great not to be careful in the consideration of this matter. Yes, I've been attending the AOC, and as what Sonia Paula was talking about, we are working on a federal lands policy. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but in March, when I brought this up to the Association of Oregon Counties, they looked at me cross-eyed like I was crazy. Lo and behold, we've had subcommittee meetings. We actually have a working document. And the thing that I think is unique about county commissioners in that they tend to be managers, and they dot the I's, cross the T's, and add up the numbers. And I think this statement is very visionary. And I've challenged my fellow commissioners to be visionary and do something relevant at the association. And therein lies conflict. So I will continue to work on this very important issue for our citizens until all avenues have been exhausted. What I learned at the diversity conference was inclusion is not an event, it is a journey. That would include Les and Mac, too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Well, wanted to just kind of put a cap on the discussion a little bit with regard to road fees. And the other thing that's really crimping our ability to take care of the roads, you know, we talked about the forest and our not ability to collect the forest monies. But also what's happening is, you know, as a lot of people probably know or maybe remember, maybe not, depends how old you are, is that cars used to get very, very poor gas mileage. And now they get gas mileage 3 to 4 or 5 times, and some vehicles that are electric don't, they wear the roads out, they don't pay a gas fee for a full electric vehicle. So what's happening is, even though the road usage is much higher because of all the population and all the road usage, we're collecting less than we actually should. So that's a factor that's contributing to the shortfall. Getting back to some of the conversations, I think last week we had a gentleman here from an area of the county that was a urban reserve, and by state law, the metro region, the counties were forced to come up with urban and rural reserves, and Metro had more authority on the urban reserves, and the counties had more authority with regard to rural reserves. So they identified, had to meet a quota of a certain amount of acreage of each, and lo and behold, you know, there's areas where people didn't want to be what they were designated. And I understand that they voted. There was an article in the Oregonian here just a couple nights ago on Oregon Live about the outcome of that. And when we talk about these areas that flare up, whether it's in the Oak Grove area when a subdivision's going in, or it's in Lake Oswego when a development happens downtown, whenever this issue of density comes up, it is something that a lot of people have a lot of heartburn with. It creates, in a very small area, creates a lot of density, a lot of homes per acre, which means more traffic, which complicates things, and that really is something that strikes the nerve of a lot of people, and we have these local flare-ups. So when we talk about climate smart, and and Commissioner Schrader talked about her role with regard to climate smart and MPAC, and then, you know, I'm the designated person in the crosshairs at JPAC, you know, trying to represent some reasonableness at the table. From a transportation standpoint, there's impacts. But on the land use specifically, as it relates to density, is that some of the language, the draft language we've seen coming out of this, which really calls for more land use that meets a density requirement. So the plan is that, you know, it appears as though that in order to have anything come in the urban growth boundary, in order perhaps to grant a permit, you know, these high density ones will be the only ones that have the lowest carbon footprint or the CO2 output. So therefore, it will further, you know, perhaps amplify the need, as they describe, the need that they prescribe to deal with, you know, CO2 output by increasing density. And that's, again, I think a lot of people move to Oregon because of what Oregon is and the beauty that it is and the suburbs and the neighborhoods. And sure, some people want to live in the metropolitan environment, and I get that. But as the urban growth or the housing preference study recently came out, it found out that housing preferences are not quite what are spelled out or prescribed in Metro's urban growth report. So there's another conflict as well. And frankly, a lot of these problems really boil down when people really drill down and figure out what the problem or where the problem or the challenge really is. It's this prescribed density that really is the core of a lot of the issues that people have when it becomes in their backyard or in their front yard. That's when they're upset, and they look to the commission or they look to their local city council and they say you should do this or that and not allow this to happen. And we don't set the density requirements. We're forced by state law to follow state law, and in the metro region, those are prescribed often by Metro. So it's very complex, but I think we need to understand that Clackamas County, the nature of the landscape, we're unique, and we need to fix our congestion issues in order to bring in more business. And so those people that are unemployed, those people that are graduating from high school, those people that are graduating with college with student debt, you know, they want a job. They want a real family wage paying job. And I think we have a responsibility, and that's one of our goals, to address that as best we can.
Thank you. We just had an exercise on the Big Shake today. I was having earthquake preparedness. Now, all the county workers, wherever they were at 10:16 a.m., were asked to basically duck and cover. Now, I was with the county administrator, and he ducked underneath the table, and I took a picture of him, and then I had ducked underneath my rather large table, and fortunately, as a companion, I was able to find a bust of Commissioner Bernard, which I took with me and had my selfie done, and I've sent that in for a contest to see if it was the weirdest one out there, which I don't know. We talk about Metro, and we talk about the difference of opinion, and this commission is pretty resolute about the problems of several things. One, the housing preference survey done by a very well-respected firm in the Portland area says that, again, 80% of the people would rather have, if affordable, in the right location, a single-family house. Now, Metro has predicted there's going to be a huge turnaround in the next 20 years. Right now, about 65% of the people own houses, and the rest are in multifamily. Now, Metro says there's going to be an epiphany, a metamorphosis out there, and that's going to completely reverse itself, you see. People are going to prefer 65% to live in multifamily. How could this possibly happen? Well, it could possibly happen as they mandate more of it. The preferred alternative disappears. The only alternative you have is multifamily. As this has been demonstrated by the home builders specifically, is that in Portland, they have said that Portland's going to build 7,500 units a year for the next 20 years when the highest they've reached is 4,000. And you can bet when they build them in Portland, there won't be any parking there either. And that's busting up neighborhoods and ticking them off in a big way. So, you take that into consideration, plus their claim that there's no urban growth boundaries needed for you plebeians out in the rural area and urban, suburban America. You don't need any more growth. We can centralize this all in Portland. Well, we'd like to grow some places out here too. If you take a look at the urban growth reserve, and then you take it the rural out here growth area, which is locked up for 50 years, those areas surround most of our cities. The previous commission has decided that these cities don't need to grow, even though if you take it, their population since 1960, it's gone up sometimes 10 times. But now Metro, who, by the way, remember, they started off in garbage, and they were pretty good at that, and then we gave them the zoo, but maybe they should have stuck with that and gone away from our central planning. We would like some flexibility out here, and I think you'll see that from this commission very soon. I want to tell you a quick story about my son that I'm very proud of. His name is Drew, and he is in the international oil business. And he was traveling in West Africa in July. Sierra Leone and Liberia, here's what they have in Liberia right now. They have quarantine cities. If you go through the airport, and he was shot twice with a thermometer, think, if you have over 100 degrees temperature, you're going into quarantine. And there's some people in quarantine you don't want to meet. So all it takes is your temperature. So what are people doing to try to defeat that? They're taking a bunch of Tylenol. They're pounding down the Tylenol, get through the check, and where do they come from? If you take our airport, it is the most dangerous part of this entire area, because there they come from. If Europe would get their stuff together, it's a central hub, let's face it, for the world. If they come out of Europe, they come to America. They, meaning everybody, it's a central hub. I've flown Europe and everything goes, or even in the Middle East, and I have had to fly through Europe again. So our Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services, Cindy Becker, has suggested, and Mr. Krupp and I have agreed, that she should bring forward a whole bunch of information on this and to assure you that at least Clackamas County has their act together and that we are ready as much as we can be. But I've asked that she pre-draft a letter that we will send to our Congress people, and I'm pretty sure it'll pass this board, saying, what the heck do you think's going on here? Get your act together. This could be diabolical to the residents here in Clackamas County and to this nation if they don't get their stuff together. So I hope you'll pay attention to that when we bring it forward. I think, Mr. Krupp, that's scheduled for 2 weeks out.
The review of the letter is actually scheduled for next Tuesday at Issues, and then we have a subsequent study session about the county's efforts for preparedness with regard to the Ebola matter. That's going to be scheduled, I believe, for the first Tuesday in November. So
good, excellent. The last thing I want to say is I was down near the Clackamas River today. There used to be I don't know, some of you old timers certainly remember when there was a tug company in the Cove at Oregon City. And what they did was they threw miles of cable on the banks. And that miles of cable certainly affects fish habitat, but it's also just destroying the trees down there. The trees can't grow, it knocks them down and they fall in the river. And so I'm determined to try to help this gentleman who's been raising volunteer funds to try to remove some of this cable. It is absolutely a sea of metal cable and kind of a scary proposition for any fisherman that might want to go down there. But, kudos to the people who put together the Great Clackamas Cleanup, who again set a record in tonnage this year. It's fantastic removal of stuff on the Clackamas River. We've also cleaned up some attitudes on the Clackamas River with our enforcement of the alcohol ban in our parks, and believe me, from the neighbors going down that river, they said it's a heck of a lot better. We will continue to work on our pristine river, the source of water for hundreds of thousands of people, until we get it right. I think that's there being no further business before this commission this day. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending and watching. This meeting is adjourned.